Well, we're doing this once again. Hello, everybody on Facebook and YouTube. This is Damon Cart from NLP Gym, and I have a really cool announcement to make. Before I do that, though, I want to introduce or allow my co host to introduce herself.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Yulia. I'm from Romania and I'm so glad to be here.
Cool. All right. She has a question, and I think when she asked me this question, I thought, well, this is perfect. I shouldn't just answer this question just to you. I should answer this question to everybody. And then after we discuss that, I'm going to talk about an announcement, a really cool announcement that I'm making in connection with the upcoming practitioner training or the current enrollment for the practitioner training. So what's your question?
So my question would be, what exactly can I expect from the product, from the Ultimate NLP Practitioner course? Because to offer a little background, I've heard of NLP for a while now,
Mm-hmm.
but still I didn't start it to understand it completely or to work on it. But though I want to learn it and I need more information, please.
Okay. So yes, she has no NLP. She thinks she has no NLP training. She's been hanging out with me, so I've been subliminally dropping it into your unconscious. And well, just by nature of some of our conversations, you've gotten some NLP. I've done some eliciting her values when she didn't realize it, and then afterwards said, "Okay, hey, do you realize what I just did?" And she was like, "No." And I said, "Okay, let me explain it to you." So she's getting some NLP indirectly, but she's never taken a training, right? You've never
Never.
worked with an NLP coach, right?
Right.
So it's completely new to you,
Exactly.
and you want to learn NLP.
I would love to.
Okay, so there's a lot of people who are like her. They know just a little bit about NLP, enough to know that they want to learn it, but they don't know what's a good product to get, or who's a good teacher to work with, or what to expect. So I'm going to discuss all that. Before I do, though, I do want to announce that we're on the countdown here for the closing of this enrollment, and we might actually close it early if it fills up, and we're almost halfway there. So that's a possibility. But what I wanted to do, because I know so many people wait last minute, and unfortunately a lot of people wait until I always get messages after the enrollment closes. Will you let me in? And they want to come in, and it's like, why couldn't you just sign up the day before, like well, just or a few hours ago? Why are you putting me in this position? Because I hate to turn people away. But um, so anyway, I want to give a reward to people who have signed up already, and for people who sign up by midnight tonight. So that's midnight my time, California time. So I don't know where you are, but you might want to check the time on that to make sure you know what midnight in California is. But if you sign up by, or rather before, hopefully before midnight tonight, you will get a free one-on-one coaching session with me. So that counts also for all of the people who already signed up. So I don't want all of you to be angry at me and being like, wait a minute, I signed up really early and you're not giving me a coaching session. Yes, everyone who has signed up already, starting, what was it, not this past Saturday, the Saturday before that. So yeah, when we open enrollment on that first Saturday until now, if you've already signed up, I want to show you my appreciation for that and reward you for taking action and getting on top of this and knowing that you want to do this training and pulling the trigger on it. So you get a free one-on-one coaching session. And if you sign up, this is the only day that I'm doing this. So if you sign up by midnight tonight for the Ultimate Online Practitioner Training, you will get a free coaching session. Don't email me after today and say, hey, I want to sign up. Can I still get the free coaching session? No. It's only today and for everyone who has signed up before then. So it looks like we froze on YouTube. Hopefully it's okay.
It is. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right, so hopefully people out in YouTube, we're okay. Looks like it froze. So anyway, let's answer your question. Your question is about what to expect if you're not, if you've never done an NLP training, if you've never done an online NLP training. So I really like this question because it lets me know, well, what are people thinking from, if they haven't done this before. And by the way, if you have done a practitioner training, and this is also of interest to you to do my training, I did 3 different practitioner trainings, and then I started resource coaching practitioner trainings after that. So I've been through practitioner training probably 5 or 6 times, and that's not counting the one that I taught and the online training that I created. So I really recommend and advise people to seek out multiple NLP teachers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the ultimate NLP teacher. You should only be learning from me. That is wrong. You should be learning from as many teachers as you can who are good teachers who are putting out useful information. So you just get so much more of a three-dimensional, multi-dimensional perspective of NLP. So what to expect in this training? Well, so like I said, I went to practitioner training multiple times, and then eventually I met up with Steve Andreas, who became my mentor, and we would discuss NLP, and then every once in a while he would say something, or I would get something wrong, or I'd ask a question, and he would say, wait a minute, you don't know it's like this? And I was like, okay, after years of NLP training, this is pretty embarrassing, that like, there was something I either didn't know or I got wrong, and I would say, well, explain that to me. One of them was the swish pattern. I thought the swish pattern was you swish out the old behavior and you swish in a new behavior. And Steve said, no, you don't swish behavior. You want a very general picture of yourself, the ideal you, who you want to become, not doing any particular behavior and not in any particular context. The reason for that is that makes it so it generalizes over to the widest areas of your life. And he was very surprised that I didn't learn it that way. I said, that's the way that I was taught with the swishing behavior. And he said, no, that's a chain. And then he went and looked up in the NLP University Encyclopedia, and he found that that's where the way it was taught in the encyclopedia. So right then, this was before I even decided to do a practitioner training, I bought his practitioner manual, him and Connie Ray Andreas' practitioner manual, and started going through it and realized how dense it was. It was very, very detailed, and there was a lot of, Steve was one of the most precise people I've ever met about everything. So this manual was so precise about every single NLP technique, and it was based on a 24-day training. And originally I was just going to do this live, and then so I put together a live training. I asked people, hey, I'm doing this, and so let's sign up. And so I got people to sign up, and they came and they started. Right before we started the live training, I decided I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to just see if anybody wants an online training. And several people signed up for that right away. So I thought, great, we're doing this thing. So one of the things that I realized right away is I don't like trainings where it's an online training where it's just like, let's put the camera on the teacher while they're teaching to a live audience, and then let's just upload that. For some reason, it seems very impersonal for an online training. I like the online trainings where it's kind of like this, where I'm talking directly to you, the audience who is not here in front of me live, but you're out there. So that's the way that I wanted to create this training. Now, you will see in this training some of me teaching live. You will see some of the demonstrations that I do with a live person. It's hard to do a demonstration without a real person with a pulse and everything. So you will see those you'll see that in the training, but the majority of the training I actually put together on keynote slides, and then I did voiceover. So it's like a movie. It's like a movie of slides with my voiceover. So I thought this would be a much more sort of personal way to teach NLP to an online student rather than them just watching me teaching other students. So the feeling of it is more I'm teaching you directly to you. The other thing is so you get a copy of the manual. You can download the copy of the manual. I also give the slides. So if you wanted to, if instead of going back through all the videos, if you were thinking about a slide that I put up where I had put instructions or I detailed why a technique works or why it doesn't work, and you just want to go back to the slide, you get to download the slides. You get access to all the slides that I created. So it's broken down into 8 different modules. The way that I did it was I taught a 3-day weekend for 1 weekend a month for 8 months. This was a long training. And by the way, if any of the people who were actually there during the live training and you came out and you came out 8 times, I know I thanked you at the end of the training and I admire you for doing that. That was a long training. So if you're listening, thank you for coming to that training. It was very special to me because it was the longest training longest practitioner training I had ever been involved in as a student or as a teacher or as a resource coach. And that was a long haul training. They just don't. I haven't seen trainings like that. I heard that in New Zealand, there's a guy who does like a 28-day training, but I'd have to look into that. But other than that, other than mine and other than this guy in New Zealand, I have never heard anybody do such a long training. So I packed that all in to this online training, and I created 8 modules. So there's 8 modules, just like the 8 sessions that I did, and the training is broken down. It's NLP. NLP is vast, and it can be intimidating and overwhelming trying to learn it. But everything is broken down into bite-sized chunks, and you can just watch the video, and you can do the practices, you can do the exercises. I recommend that you find somebody to practice with. I recommend even taking it even further than that and pulling together a practice group, and then have them help you pay for the program. I've done that before with different programs. Just say, hey, let's all pitch in, let's buy the program, and let's all work together in doing it. You're going to learn how to persuade better. You're going to learn how to communicate better. You're going to learn how to manage your state better, overcome problems, obstacles, limiting beliefs. Learn how to really create goals that you will achieve, realistic goals that the way that you do these, it's called an outcome frame. You can't fail. Like, you clear out all the obstacles. You make sure this is definitely something that you want, and you have a plan for it. So yeah, you're going to learn some really cool stuff, and it starts off the journey. Some of you are going to go through the program, and you're going to get a lot out of it, and then you're just going to move on with your life. You're not going to become an obsessed NLPer like me, and that's okay. And then some of you are going to, I mean, this is the beginning, and you're going to go through this program over and over, and you can, because you get lifetime access. Or sometimes you might just want to refer to it because it is encyclopedic. Like, it has so much information in it. But it's not just like picking up an encyclopedia and reading it from cover to cover. There are instructions and a guide and a way to go through this. Did I answer your question?
Yes, actually, now everything is so clear.
There's nothing else that.
I think I'm good for right now. I am gonna start it.
Okay.
It sounds very good.
Good. Yeah, so the training is broken down, like I said, into as detailed small chunks as possible. The other thing is that one of the problems that I had when I experienced a lot of live trainings. I think the neighbors are playing piano. I'd been to a lot of live trainings, but I didn't have a teacher to help me afterward. You're pretty much left on your own. So, like, when you're deciding over whether or not you want to do a live training or an online training, there's pros and cons to both. And I always like to learn in person, but one of the downsides that I found in learning in person was once the training was over, my teachers were gone. They often didn't respond to emails because they were very busy, and so I couldn't ask them questions. Like, I was just there. It's like you get a taste of NLP, and then you're left on your own to figure out the rest. And believe me, even after, especially how shortened the practitioner trainings are these days, you don't get enough time to practice. You don't really know NLP by the end of it, and that's why they give you a certificate, because they want to make you feel like you got something. Like, I'm certified now as an NLPer, which is really doesn't mean anything anymore these days. So what you get, though, is ongoing support from me. I have a closed Facebook page for NLP practitioners who are in the program, and I do live coaching calls, and I make sure you put your questions into the group, and I answer them. Your fellow students answer them. They give you other perspectives, so you get ongoing support, and that's lifetime as well. There's no limitation on that. But there is a limitation on the one-on-one free coaching that I'm offering, and that is over tonight. So like I said, if you sign up by tonight, by midnight California time, this Wednesday, September 19th, you will get a free one-on-one coaching session with me. Don't email me tomorrow and say, please, can I have that? No, just sign up right now and get started on the program, and you'll be in. So, any other questions?
No, I'm
No?
good for now.
Oh, come on, I'm getting fired up now. All right, where is the link to sign up? Okay, so you're on YouTube. We have to put that stuff in later. Unfortunately, we can't put it in ahead of time because I'm working off of my phone. But I will put it in as soon as the live call, as soon as this is over with. I'm going to go put the link into the description, and I'll also put the link, I'll pin it in the comments, I'll pin it to the top. So thank you for that question. While we are on, though, if anybody out there has any questions, please put them through right now, and I'll stay on and answer them. You're awesome. Thanks. Oh, thank you. That's always cool. Keep the compliments coming, too. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Anybody else have any questions out there? I'll just hang on for a few more seconds.
Actually, can I ask you something?
Wait, do you think it's possible to do the swish pattern in a group setting? Like teaching everybody the swish pattern and having them do it all at once, that is possible, provided you're giving very detailed instruction on how to do it. And then you would probably want to go around to each person and make sure that they've got it right. There's a few problems. Okay, now I'm getting a little fired up. I love talking about this stuff. Okay, so two major problems, two major mistakes people make with the swish pattern. I did make a video on this as well, but I'll go ahead and tell you the two most common mistakes is, so when they're swishing down and they're swishing up, what they do is when you reset it, they swish backward. So they're doing this. So they're swishing it up. Whoop. So they're taking the associated image here, and they're swishing that down while they're swishing the ideal image up. And then when they go to reset it, instead of just clearing it out and starting back here, they're actually swishing backward. And so when you do this, what you're doing is you're creating a yo-yo effect. So when you're in that situation and you feel the compulsion coming on, then what will happen is you'll swish in the ideal you, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then suddenly it'll swish back to the compulsion, and you'll probably go forward with the compulsion. While I was teaching the live practitioner training, one of the students, James, even though I said specifically to watch out for that, he came back the next morning for the training, and he said, I don't know, it didn't work. And I said, okay, well, what happens? So, pull the image up of the compulsion image, and then tell me what happens. And he goes, okay. And he could see his eyes go up and down. And before he even said anything, I knew exactly what happened. I knew he had created that yo-yo effect. And I said, you're swishing back and forth, aren't you? And he said, yeah, I am. I said, okay, you weren't listening. So you really want to be careful. So when you swish, I better stop hitting my microphone. When you swish, then let it go. Let the images go. And then when you reset them, just make them appear again. Don't swish them back, because then you'll create that up, down, and it won't work. Okay. The other thing is that when people create that ideal image of themselves, they either attach it to a context or they attach it to some particular behavior that you're doing. This won't work. And the reason why is because, say you want to quit smoking, and the compulsion is to smoke. And so then you swish in this image of the ideal you exercising instead of smoking. So this is the way that I was taught originally, the swish pattern in my first training, which was wrong, and Steve corrected me. So say every time I see that compulsion image for me to smoke a cigarette, and I swish up this image of me exercising. Well, that sounds great, but what if I wake up in the middle of the night and I want a cigarette? I'm not going to work out. That's not going to happen. So you don't want to have a particular behavior or a particular context, because then you will only it will only work in that particular context or that particular behavior. So if you're teaching the swish pattern as a group, you want to make sure that people are doing it correctly, because I was teaching to a group, and whenever we broke out for the breakout session to practice, I was watching people and trying to make sure that they were doing it correctly, and obviously one slipped through the cracks and I missed. So if you want to teach it as a group, just make sure you're telling them exactly what I'm saying right now, is just watch out for these mistakes. I think you heard Steve Andres mention open eyes between each swish to break the state to prevent the if that works for you, yeah. So you're saying using your eyes open or closed to break the state, that works. You could also step away from the situation, or there's different ways to break state. You could think about something completely different. Somebody asked me a question about that. Also in the online training, you can you can post comments and messages under each video. So you can say, so if you have a question, instead of moving to the Facebook group, if you have a question while you're doing the training, you can actually put a question right under it. So I know what you're talking about, or what you're referring to with your question. And somebody had asked about that, and break and state, if you're working with someone. Where'd you get that jacket? So her state just broke. So you were like, what? So just by asking a question like that, somebody can break it. Look, she's turning red. I don't know if you can see this.
Okay.
I didn't mean to embarrass you.
No, it's fine. I like my jacket. Yeah, it's from a store. It's fine. It's comfortable.
So that's one way you can break somebody's state, and you can see obviously it worked with her. Another way, correction, for someone just getting introduced to NLP and looking to start learning about it, what steps do you recommend I take besides the one for you? Get my program. What I tell people, if they're on the fence, if you're still not sure if you want to learn, if you want to start investing money in learning NLP, I say take advantage of as much free content as you possibly can. That's what I did. And when I reached that point where it was like, I know I can't really go any further until I get some instruction from a teacher, somebody who knows what they're talking about. That's when I started taking trainings. So I'll tell you how I started was I was getting books, and if you've ever tried to learn NLP from books, you know how frustrating that can be, because it's a very experiential model. You can't just take in the information and say, okay, I know NLP. It's like trying to read books about martial arts and thinking that you're going to become a great fighter, or reading books on how to play the piano and thinking you don't need to practice. It just doesn't work that way. So I was getting books, and I was reading books, and I was like, okay, I actually need to practice this with somebody. So I started a practice group, and I highly, highly recommend you start a practice group or a study group for NLP. And when I recommend people do that, they often say, well, okay, I can't do that. You could do that because you knew NLP. And I just started laughing. I was like, no, I started a practice group before I had any NLP training. I started a practice group because I had no NLP training. I basically did it because I wanted to practice with people the stuff that I was reading in these books. And so I started doing that, and then I got to a point where some things were working and some things were not, and I didn't know why the things that weren't working. So I finally said, you know what, I really can't afford it, but I'm going to go do my first NLP training, and that's what I did. And suddenly everything made a lot more sense. It also happened to be, people were asking me if I was already a coach and already a teacher, and I would say no, and I'd just say why, and they said, you seem like you kind of know this stuff. And the only reason I kind of knew the stuff was because I was reading books and practicing, and that was it. So that will help you. So my point is if you're getting started, you're not sure if you are ready to invest money into an NLP training, take advantage of all the free content that you can. Watch my videos, watch other NLPers videos. Also be careful what NLPers you're watching. Some people, if they're mixing it with a lot of other stuff, and let me put it this way too, I don't think NLP is the only game in town. There are other good personal development modalities out there and methods, and so I'm not putting any of them down. The thing that I do caution is when you go into an NLP trainer and they're mixing NLP in with too many other things, and they're still calling it NLP. I think it's really good. I think it's really good to separate out what NLP is, so that you know what it is. It's kind of like MMA, mixed martial arts. I'm sure there are great systems that mix it all together, but you'll find that some of the best MMA fighters, they went to the individual disciplines and studied each one. So, for example, to do their punching, they went and studied with boxers. To learn their kicking, they went and studied Muay Thai. Somebody said,
yeah.
For the grappling, they went and studied with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists. That's, I think, makes a better all-around fighter. And then once you reach that point, then you start finding ways to combine it, and you start working with teachers who can combine all of these things. But there's something very special to me about separating each discipline out and studying them individually and then bringing them together all at once. So if you're into personal development, if you're a life coach or any kind of coach, NLP can either be a very powerful tool in your toolkit among many tools, or you can specialize in NLP, and that's what I do. Just because it's hard to find anything that NLP hasn't worked well for me. Now I know everybody's different, so I'm not trying to say NLP is it. I'm not an evangelist, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to sit here and say that NLP has it all. But in my life, I would say it's 90% effective on pretty much everything that I've used it for. And so why if something's working, why try anything else? I mean, that came out the wrong way. Of course, try other things, but why go to something else that hasn't worked so well for me as NLP? So it's up to you. You're gonna, if this resonates with you, if you watch my videos and it makes sense and it resonates with you, that's a good indication that you're gonna go far in NLP, and that NLP is gonna be very effective for you. If you watch my videos and you go, man, I just don't get this stuff, maybe not so much. Can I give an example of how it's worked in my life? Wow, that's that's a big question. I would say more than anything. So I've basically applied NLP to every problem I've ever had that becomes conscious. I've applied it in every way possible. I'll tell you I'll tell you two. I'll try to narrow this down to two. We're already going past 20 minutes. Are you cool?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
There's two big ones. The two biggest ones. I'm going to share some stuff here that might make me look a little vulnerable, but what the hell? Money. I struggled with money for a long time, and I've never been broke. I've never been out on the street. I just had some really messed up beliefs about money. I believed that to make a lot of money, I had to do things that sucked. I had to do things that I really don't like to do. That was my belief. If you're going to make a lot of money, you have to do things that you don't like to do. So I opened a business that I didn't like because I thought it was going to be very profitable. I did a lot of these things. There was a lot of mistakes that I made around this belief. And it was my master practitioner training, not mine, as in I wasn't teaching it. I was going as a student. And actually, Robert Dilts was teaching it. So was Judith Delozier, and I forget her name. I'll probably remember it in a minute. But I was really throwing everything at. We were working with a lot of belief change, and I was really throwing every process at these limiting beliefs. And I even went to Judith Delozier, and I said, "Hey, can I use NLP for money?" And she said, "Well, it's really not about money." I was like, "It's not." And she's like, "No, it's about other things." And I went to that other teacher. I can't believe I can't remember her name. But anyway, I went to her and she said the same thing. It's not about money. So I go to the two female teachers and they both tell me it's not about money. And then I go to Robert Dilts and I say, so I know that I can't really use NLP to tackle this whole money issue. And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, it's not about money, right?" And he's like, "Of course it's about money." And so I said, "All right, well, can you help me out here?" And he said, we talked a little bit, but the summary of the whole thing was just use every process that we learned. He said, "Damon, I'm going to be teaching you some really good processes here." He said, "Just use every single one about money." And it wasn't that day, but 2 or 3 days later, we were doing a process, it was re-imprinting, and it was like something just exploded in me. And I remember walking around campus, because it was at UCSC campus where actually NLP was founded. And I was like, I know I've been on this campus several times, but it actually looks different. Like it shook that process just really shook my world. And over the next 24 hours, ideas and solutions were just slamming into my head. I had to start writing them down. And I'm not kidding, in a 24-hour period, I solved major financial issues in that one 24-hour period that had plagued me for years.